1966, a remarkable event unfolded in Ohio that would later inspire a legendary filmmaker to make one of the most popular movies of the modern era. As police officers found themselves in hot pursuit of an unidentified flying object, they were unwittingly paving the way for an iconic scene in Steven Spielberg's Close Encounters of the Third Kind. In the movie, 3 police cars are depicted chasing mysterious lights across the night sky. They race down rural highways and tear through a toll booth, crossing state lines in pursuit. The intensity reaches a climax when one patrol car loses control and crashes, while the others come to a screeching halt, mesmerized by the accelerating lights soaring upwards, evading their grasp. The inspiration for this chase scene came from a real-life incident. In 1966, the extraordinary pursuit unfolded over an impressive 80-mile stretch beginning in Ohio and traversing into Pennsylvania. The officers chased the mysterious craft at speeds of up to 100 miles per hour. This event stands out as one of the most meticulously investigated and thoroughly documented UFO cases to this day. Welcome to Curious History Mysteries. The story unfolds on a clear Sunday morning on April 17, 1966, in Ravenna, Ohio. Deputy Sheriff Dale Spoor is out on patrol. Accompanying him is Assistant Deputy Barney Neff, a mechanic who volunteers his weekends to assist the sheriff's office. At 5 a.m., they find themselves driving westbound on U.S. Route 224. Having already handled various tasks since midnight, they are now investigating a report about a strange light in the sky near Akron. At first, they dismiss it as a mere prank call, but their curiosity lingers. Soon, they notice a parked car facing the opposite direction on the south side of the road, situated between the crossroads of State Route 44 and State Route 224. Spoor decides to make a U-turn and pull up behind the vehicle. The car is an unoccupied 1959 Ford. Spoor contemplates various possibilities. It could be a burglar's abandoned getaway car, a broken-down vehicle whose driver went for help, or even someone stepping into the woods for a brief respite. Spoor sees nothing unusual as he shines his flashlight through the car's windows. He then focuses his attention on the woods, trying to spot the missing driver. Yet even after scanning the surroundings, there are no signs of anyone nearby. Suddenly, their ordinary night shift takes a surreal turn as Spoor looks up and spots a shining object emerging over the treetops. The strange craft silently glides from west to east along the south side of the highway, hovering at an incredibly low altitude. Startled by the sight, Spoor urgently alerts Neff, who turns to witness the mysterious spectacle as well. The object pauses momentarily before directly crossing the highway, hovering right above them, merely a few hundred feet off the ground. The intensity of the blue-white light emanating from the craft makes it difficult for them to fully comprehend what they're seeing. The entire area around them is bathed in an ethereal glow, as bright as the midday sun. The object appears to be wider than the roadway, measuring approximately 50 feet long and 25 feet tall, and is accompanied by a low, steady humming sound reminiscent of electrical transformers or high-tension power lines. Despite their previous military service, the 2 seasoned veterans are overcome by fear and uncertainty. Spoor, an Air Force veteran who had seen combat in the Korean War, is shaken to the core, grappling with the uncanny reality before him. Neff, having served in the Navy and witnessed countless rocket launches, is equally dumbfounded. Instinctively, the deputies seek refuge back inside the patrol car. However, they remain frozen in bewilderment, unsure of their next move in the face of this otherworldly encounter. Remembering the earlier reports of a mysterious light in the sky, Spoor grabs the radio microphone and contacts his office in Ravenna. He confirms that they have indeed spotted the object and that it is directly above them at that very moment. Deputy Robert Wilson, the radio operator, promptly logs Spoor's report, taking note of the time as 5:07 a.m. The mysterious craft moves northward above the highway while staying at the same low altitude, then it shifts direction 300 feet to the east, coming to a halt once more, hovering just above the treetops. In the heat of the moment, Wilson suggests that Spoor should take a shot at the unidentified object. The officers radio in for directives and Sergeant Hank Schoenfeld intervenes, keeping a cool head, and instead inquires if Spoor has a camera on hand. Unfortunately, Spoor responds that he does not possess one. With a plan in mind, Sergeant Schoenfeld instructs Spoor to keep the object in his sight and attempt to identify it while he tries to dispatch someone with a camera to the scene. The mysterious object continues its journey to the east, maintaining a steady pace alongside the highway. Deputies Spoor and Neff waste no time and give chase, their police car roaring ahead. Spoor, a seasoned race car driver, has never been outrun by a violator before, but this pursuit is unlike anything he has ever experienced. To keep the object in their sights, Spoor leans over the steering wheel, and Neff presses his face against the windshield on the passenger side. The object's appearance is peculiar, with an egg-shaped body and a depression at the upper part toward the back. It has an antenna or some other projection at the rear, and a cone-shaped beam of light pointing towards the ground. Spoor estimates the object's altitude at around 300 feet and determines its speed to be 83 miles per hour. Throughout the pursuit, the object's speed, altitude, and position relative to the patrol car vary, sometimes on the north side of the roadway, other times on the south, and occasionally almost directly overhead. Yet, it never makes any sudden maneuvers or attempts to escape them, giving the deputies an eerie sense that it is not trying to elude them. As the chase progresses eastward along US 224 and State Route 14, heading towards Canfield, as they cross Berlin Reservoir, Deputy Spoor and Neff realize that they are venturing beyond their jurisdiction, moving from Portage County into Mahoning County. The object now appears to be positioned to the south of their location, and before long, they reach the Columbiana County line, where State Route 14 veers eastward again, leading them further into uncharted territory. As they continue towards the Pennsylvania state line, Patrolman Wayne Houston of East Palestine, Ohio, eagerly listens to the radio chatter. In 1966, most law enforcement agencies in Ohio share the same radio frequency, making it easy for him to keep track of the unfolding events. Houston, a seasoned police officer and an Army veteran, has been patrolling his city for 6 years. Seeking to join in on the action, he ventures outside East Palestine and positions himself near the crossroads of State Routes 14 and 170. The object approaches from the west, and Houston estimates it to be about 5 miles away. Flying at a speed of 80 to 85 miles per hour, it zooms past him in just a few minutes, maintaining an altitude of 800 to 900 feet and making no sound at all. Houston describes the object as resembling a melted ice cream cone. The rounded top appears solid, with a flatter section on one side. There are no visible projections or antennas, and the cone part seems like a beam of light shining into the clear air. Deputy Spoor, still in hot pursuit, races by Houston's location. Houston quickly follows, and together, they cross the state line into Beaver County, Pennsylvania. Out of his jurisdiction and unfamiliar with the area, Deputy Spoor relies on Houston's knowledge of the terrain. As the chase progresses, Deputy Spoor finds himself out of range for his base station in Ravenna, Ohio. Patrolman Houston's radio operator in East Palestine also struggles to understand the situation. The sheriff's office in Lisbon attempts to help by relaying transmissions between the officers. However, the state police and other Pennsylvania officers are unable to provide direct assistance, as they operate on different radio frequencies than the Ohio law enforcement. To relay information, base stations must resort to phone calls, leading to gaps and delays in communication. In Pennsylvania, the pursuit encounters challenging terrain with more hills and curves. Spoor and Houston momentarily lose sight of the object behind a ridgeline after passing Brady's Run Park near Beaver Falls. As they approach Bridgewater, early morning church traffic slows them down. Additionally, a series of bridges and railroad underpasses along the route where the Beaver River flows into the Ohio River make navigation more challenging for the determined officers. As dawn breaks in Rochester, the exhausted officers consider giving up and returning home. Sunrise is nearing, and they've been chasing the object for hours. Just when they are about to call it quits, the mysterious craft reappears, rising over a hill as if it had been waiting for them. Houston manages to catch a glimpse of something protruding from the right side of the object, but his attention remains fixed on the road. The pursuit is back on. The officers continue south on Pennsylvania State Route 65, running alongside the Ohio River through towns like Freedom and Conway. At the Atlantic Service Station in Conway, Patrolman Frank Panzinella, an Army veteran of the Korean War, is already observing the object. He describes it as half of a football, around 25 to 35 feet in diameter, and estimates its altitude to be 1,000 feet. Panzinella had first noticed the object half an hour earlier, thinking it might be an airplane in distress from the nearby Greater Pittsburgh Airport. Intrigued, he had driven around town to get a better view. Unaware of the ongoing pursuit, Panzinella is taken aback when the Portage County and East Palestine patrol cars screech to a stop next to him. Spoor, Neff, and Houston eagerly inquire if he saw it, and he admits he's been watching the strange craft. Together, the four officers observe the object as it moves towards the northeast and then stops once again, hovering about 1,000 feet above them. Suddenly, it rapidly ascends, shooting straight up to an estimated altitude of 3,500 feet. Panzinella finally breaks his silence and radios the police base station in Rochester to report what they are witnessing. He also requests that the Pittsburgh airport be notified. The radio operator seems skeptical, asking if he is feeling all right. Panzinella confidently responds that if he is feeling sick, then the other three patrolmen are as well. Around 5:58 a.m., the officers contact the Federal Aviation Agency at Pittsburgh, and while they are on the line, they see a Boeing 707 passenger jet, United Airlines Flight 454, passing to the left of the object, about 1,000 feet below it. Soon after, the mysterious craft begins to ascend further, becoming barely visible before shooting straight up and disappearing from sight entirely. As daylight breaks around 6:15 a.m., the pursuit comes to an end. Spoor, Neff, Houston, and Panzanella return to their stations, their minds filled with questions about their inexplicable encounter. On Friday, April 22nd, the government's official explanation was released by Major Hector Quintanilla Jr., the commander of Project Blue Book at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio. According to Quintanilla, the object that Spoor, Neff, and Houston chased across 2 states, with Panzanella watching alongside, was identified as the planet Venus. Major Quintanilla offered his theory to account for the object's peculiar movements across the sky. He asserted that the officers first spotted an Echo Communications satellite passing from the northwest, and then, perhaps unknowingly, refocused their attention on Venus rising in the southeast. Portage County Sheriff Ross Dustman, however, openly supported his deputies, not convinced by the official explanation. "I've seen Venus many times," said Dustman. "I like to look at the sky and am familiar with it. But I never saw Venus 50 feet above a road and moving side to side like this was." Despite the government's explanation, doubts still lingered. Quintanilla's statement made headlines, and by Sunday, the nearby Youngstown Vindicator published a mocking headline. A mystery of what really transpired that fateful night continued to captivate the public's imagination. Surprisingly, William Powers, an astronomer whom Quintanilla briefly consulted, takes the initiative to write a personal letter of apology to Spoor and Neff. Powers firmly rejects Quintanilla's identification of the object, stating, "At no time did I suppose that the earlier part of the sighting involved anything other than an airborne object." Dr. J. Allen Hynek himself agrees with Powers' assessment, and he assures the officers of his concurrence. In his book, The UFO Experience, A Scientific Inquiry, Dr. Hynek evaluates the case as a strong unidentified. Although he cannot pinpoint exactly what it was, he is certain that it was neither a satellite nor Venus. Adding to the case's mystery, there were no satellites reported over Portage County during the time of the sighting. Moreover, the officers explicitly stated that they saw both Venus and the unidentified object. Sheriff Dustman's common sense brings the matter into focus. Neither a satellite nor Venus could maneuver a few hundred feet in the air and emit a bright illumination on the ground below. Despite this evidence and expert opinions, the final official word remains fixed under the classification of satellite and astronomical observations. The case, forever labeled as such, remains filed away, leaving behind unanswered questions that continue to intrigue those who are curious about the unknown. Thanks for watching today, folks, and remember, stay curious.